Wonderful. Great. So today I meet with Mawgan Wilkins, Head of Supply Chain EMEAR at Orange Business Services and founder of Above All Coaching and Consulting. So Mawgan, I know, is a past master at scenario planning, and he helps people predict and create an understanding of the future, to create a degree of certainty and outcome. So just to set so welcome, Mawgan. It's just wonderful to have you join us, and thank you for your time and being able to share your experience and your insights. So just to provide a bit of context for everybody watching and listening, can you say a little bit about who you are and what you do, what your job entails? It sounds fascinating.
Sure. So thank you for the invitation. Nice to be here. Good to see you. And so my role is, I think it's quite self-explanatory. I run supply chain for Orange Business Services in Europe, Middle East, Africa. This is a role that I've only been with Orange for a short time, but this is a field that I've been in for the last 25, nearly 30 years, something like that. So lots and lots of supply chain, and obviously developing all the way from introductory roles all the way up to senior leadership roles. Working at Cisco for nearly 20 years, and of late, more recently, I've got very interested in the areas of coaching and development and consulting. So alongside what I do for Orange, I've also developed my own practice where I can exercise my coaching skills and NLP skills.
Excellent. I mean, really, that's quite a lot of change in quite a short period of time.
It's a substantial amount of change. I think that this last 12 months for me could be characterized as uncertainty, doubt, change, disruption, all those kind of words. I've changed, changed companies, moved back to an area that I've been out of for the last few years, trained myself, to do something completely different, in the field of coaching and NLP, and walked into a new organization, and 2 months later, COVID-19 arrives, which threw everything up in the air again. But I think the key thing is that the majority of what I've had to deal with is stuff that I've dealt with in the past. So it's about going back to those points in time where you've seen something similar, and what can I take from that I can use this time around as well?
Yeah. I mean, what sort of mindsets really got you through all this change? What is it? What's your secret?
I guess it's those simple things of, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
None of this is permanent. We know that because things always change. Now, COVID is obviously a very specific and extremely difficult period for everybody globally. Whereas many of the disruptions that we've seen in the past have been geographic in nature. They've been natural disasters or civil unrest and those kind of things. So they've been more isolated. This one truly is global, and it has impact in a lot of different places. But I think you have to have faith in yourself, and you have to have faith in other people that we'll get through this, and that coming out the other side, a lot of people have talked about the new normal. There will just be a different normal, and that normal is going to change again when the next change, disruption, or natural disaster comes, and we'll cope with it. That's what human beings are about. We evolve.
I think from a leadership perspective, I think for me the term uncertainty is something that really defines what leadership is all about. That's what you're there for. You're there to take people into those uncertain areas, lead them, give people faith to follow you. And for me, that really sums up what leadership is all about. Regardless of whether there's a global pandemic, you're still taking your business, your team into the unknown.
Yeah, very, very much. And I think if you look at what leaders have to do every day, every month, every year, It's about dealing with ambiguity, dealing with changes in strategy, tactics, whatever it may be. Our customers' environments are always changing, so we have to adapt to be able to support them. You get a team set up and ticking along absolutely wonderfully, and somebody decides they're going to leave, they're going to take another job, or they see an opportunity, or you promote someone, and then there's change again, and then the organization has to go through that storming, norming, forming, performing loop all over again. So as a leader, you've just got to build up your own personal resilience and as much resilience within the team as you can. Just be ready for those things, or even to just accept they're going to happen.
Yeah. And that point about your customers and your team members, what has changed for your customers? I mean, what are they needing from you now?
Well, I think that the key thing, as a major supplier in the technology field is that the customers want certainty.
Yeah.
They want a level of certainty. Exactly. They want us to be that buffer between the known and the unknown.
Yeah.
They want us to be able to give them some level of surety that their networks will work, that their customers will have access to the services that they need, so that they have a level of business continuity, that we've got a handle on all the things that we need to do to make sure those things happen. So it's that reassurance for them, them having the confidence that we've done everything possible to look after them. And I think that that in some ways that never changes.
No,
I think it's just more accentuated at the moment because there are so many more unknowns. And we're starting to see now, as we begin to come out of this in some countries, more and more customers bringing us more and more business, because we're able to say yes, because we've done some preparation work, we've looked at different scenarios, we've tried to get ahead where we can, to a point where the vast majority of the time when customer says, can you do this, the answer is yes. And when competitors are saying, let me come back to you, or I don't think we can do that yet, if we can go back and say yes, and then find a way to make it happen, then you've got you start to build loyalty. It's not just transactional customer experience and satisfaction. You've now built a relationship with that customer.
So what has had to happen in order to be able to deliver that certainty to your customers and being able to say yes? What has had to happen internally, or what have you had to do as a leader to create that capability?
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question. So within Orange, the supply chain environment is split between a central function and regional functions. And what was clear was that this pandemic was truly global, and if we were going to be successful, we had to get everybody aligned. And it's not to say the alignment wasn't there, but the alignment wasn't clear.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as we started to see this really begin to bite, I essentially implemented process that I've been part of many times in the past, from a business continuity perspective, from a critical account management perspective, where you pull the right stakeholders together, you set the frequency of conversation, you define the agenda, you have an action tracker, you assign a sort of a program owner, and you start to drive, and you start with daily calls, and then when you start to get a handle on things, you can move that out to maybe 3 times a week. And we're now at the stage where we've gone from a distributed team of sort of pockets of knowledge and experience to a cohesive and coordinated community that is talking together every single week on subjects, on everything from which countries are on again, off again, where are we seeing recovery, how are we measuring that recovery, what opportunities can we take, what help do I need, What insights have I got? So we're now really driving that environment of information exchange, knowledge exchange, experience exchange, and it's just it's great humor, and it's relationships, and it's everybody working for that common objective of how can we help each other serve the customer. And that's what it's all about. And it was, in some ways, it was surprising to me that wasn't there. I think it was informally there, but this has created a formal structure around it.
Right.
And it's now moving us on now to explore other opportunities of how do we use this community to more effectively manage supply chains, to support the business differently, to look at co-development, co-investment, etc. So it's really started to generate some different thinking and different behaviours.
It's really, as you're talking about, and that some really great examples there of how you've created pockets of structure that were containers specifically for a specific challenge, and that how that I can see how that will help people be more comfortable in an environment that is so uncertain, that nobody's really ever experienced before. But by setting up quickly those pockets of teams and operations and sort of a regular rhythm or cadence of communications, provides a secure container for people to operate in. There's some great examples. So what sort of reactions have you had from your team members about them adjusting to, or not just your team members, but in general, staff responding and reacting to, the working from home? Is that something that's already in Orange, or how do you?
We moved very, very quickly to mass working at home. Well over 90% of the organization within weeks was working remotely.
Right.
Now, were there bumps in the road? Yes, there were quite a number of bumps in the road. While people got used to it, while we found the right collaboration tools to use, started to get into that rhythm of rhythm of being on a call, being virtual with people, not having that opportunity for sidebar conversations, and it was a challenge. I personally, I found it very easy. Because I've been working this way for 15 years, on and off. But there were a number of people that needed to be helped through things. And again, I think if you offer up your own experiences, and whether that experience is just, have a conversation with somebody and make sure they're okay, with turning their camera on in the morning, and accepting the fact that some people will say, no, actually, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm still in my pajamas. It's like, yeah, that's fine. It's no big deal. Or please excuse the kids in the background. It's like, well, that's reality for us. All the way through to, helping people with technical problems. I mean, again, one of the great benefits of working at Cisco and, using WebEx for as long as I have is, that was a corporate tool available to us. And, I became level 1 support for WebEx in my team. So, but it's just, again, it's all about breaking down barriers. It's all about, letting people know that we are all in this together and we're all suffering the same things. And, beginning a conversation, beginning a meeting with, hi, how's everyone doing? How's the family? What have you been up to since I last spoke to you? And, what are you doing to sort of fill your days if when you're not on meetings or and just finding out what people are doing. And it's that really truly human side of these situations that is fascinating for me because I'm nosy. But it's interesting. You get to know people differently. there are members of the team who are living on their own, and in the sort of the really heavy lockdown period that we're in, they needed support. They needed somebody to talk to, and having that ability to switch the camera on and have just a one-on-one and a coffee conversation was really important and absolutely necessary for mental health, if nothing else. So, I think a lot of people began to appreciate that very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The opportunity of using collaborative technology to help support each other and to, in some ways, head off what could have been a fairly
major
sort of mental health issue for some people. You can't put a cost on that.
No. And I think different industries have their different challenges, don't they? And I think what I've noticed about what you were saying is just having that level of trust with people. To I think it's very tempting to think if people are suddenly going virtual or working from home that they're not actually working, but you have to trust people that people are doing their jobs, and like you say, just be there and be accessible for people when they need you, but also offer yourself as support as well.
I think again, as a leader, I mean that is that's fundamental. Whether it's virtual, in person, whatever. You start from a basis of trust.
Yeah,
you have to, because you can't keep an eye on everything, and if you try and keep an eye on everything and you're micromanaging stuff, then you drive yourself mad.
Absolutely.
So you have to start from a foundation of trust, and you have to certainly my perspective is, my view is that you start from you look at the output, not the input. It's the outcome of the effort, not the amount of effort. If you could get your job done, because you're not traveling an hour, 2 hours every day, if you can get your job done and get everything done by 2:00 in the afternoon and the sun's out, go and sit outside, go and be with your family, go and take the dog for a walk, because it's far, far better for you and for us if you're in the right state of mind, the right frame of mind, and have the energy to do the things. You're not worried constantly.
From a health and well-being perspective, I've spoken to people that used to travel a lot. They used to be back and forwards to the US or to APJC almost on a weekly basis. And they've said that they have never felt so well in their life because they're not constantly jet lagged. They're eating healthily, they're exercising.
I recognise that. I spent well over a third to nearly a half of my time every year on planes, and I've been doing that for 20 plus years. And it's not good for you. No. It's really not good for you. And have I put a few pounds on during the lockdown? Yes, I've had a few more gin and tonics than I should have done, but I'm walking, according to my iPhone, I'm walking 4.5 miles a day.
Nice.
Which I wasn't doing before, and I'm doing that every day. So there's pluses and minuses to all of this, and I think it is about finding the good stuff.
Yeah. So let's think about your top 2 or 3 lessons learned. Right at the beginning you talked about, this is stuff, I was applying stuff that I've done before that I know works. But what have been the real insights or real lessons learned for you over this very unique period of lockdown?
So one of the things I did earlier on, and I sent this message to a few people, is I went back to a quote from John Chambers, which I know where he stole it from, but I'll still attribute it to John Chambers, who you and I both worked with at Cisco. But it's deal with the world the way it is, not the way that you wish it was.
Right.
Deal with what's in front of you. And if you can deal with what's in front of you, then you have a much, much better chance of being successful. And it's kind of, I guess 1 and 2 are sort of linked together, but it's that aspect of deal with the things that you can control.
Mm.
You know, think about the things that you do know, rather than spending all that time focusing on the things that you don't know. You know, there's always going to be far more that you don't know than you do know.
Yeah.
So get the stuff that you do know all together, and whether it's people, whether it's information, whatever it might be, get them together and be able to take those first couple of steps forward.
Perfect.
Again, you know, quote from Martin Luther King, you know, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can move just on the information that you do know, and then lift your head up and look around and see, okay, so what's next, and then what's next, and then what's next, and eventually, you know, in these kind of uncertain times, your horizon will go further out.
Right.
You know, we'd all love to have a strategy, you know, that's 2 or 3 years out, but right now we don't know what's happening week to week or day to day.
Yeah.
So, you know, just be comfortable not knowing. You know, that's, you know, again, that if you think about, you know, both you and I have done a lot of coaching. You know, what's the greatest thing that you go into every engagement with? You don't know anything.
You don't know anything, no. And sometimes what's really good, you know, that point of confusion or that point of really you don't know, is that you're so close to getting creative because you have no reference. It's almost you've got a blank canvas or a greenfield site, because we naturally want to start making sense of things. So we have to start getting creative, and that's when the ideas start coming.
Yes.
But I think what you're saying is that the antidote for uncertainty is just understanding where you are right at this moment in time.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the third one is you know, I think you've absolutely nailed it. It's innovation.
Yeah.
You have to get innovative to deal with this. You've got to get innovative because the world has just changed.
Yeah.
It's just moved from under your feet in a way that nobody ever expected to. So get curious. Get curious about what's possible, what you can do, and use that to drive innovation. I mean, again, sorry to keep using all these quotes, but you know, is it necessity is the mother of invention? I think that's a Winston Churchill one. You know, but it's true. It's absolutely true. You know, natural disasters, wars, however you want to look at it, you know, they're terrible times, they're unfortunate times, but they push people to think differently because it's about survival.
Yeah.
And whether that's personal survival, whether it's organizational survival, your company survival, your business, you know, your own business, whatever it might be, it drives you to think differently. And out of that comes creativity and innovation. And that's what drives progress.
Wonderful. Well, I think that sounds like a perfect point to end this discussion. Mawgan, thank you very much for your insight today. Thoroughly fascinating. And I wish you all the best with the ongoing uncertainty. And thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great fun. I appreciate the time.
Wonderful. There's some great tips there from Mawgan on how he is leading through uncertainty. So let's just remind ourselves of some of those useful tips. In terms of mindset, again, really focusing on what mindsets leaders have during these times. He talked about knowing that none of this is permanent, that it will pass. And I think that's helpful in thinking beyond and setting some outcomes beyond, but also how he leads his team through that. Have faith in yourself and in others and keep innovating. Just because things are uncertain, it doesn't mean you can't get creative. So always keep an innovation mind in process. And believe that you will get through it and deal with what's in front of you. So knowing that you can control what's immediately ahead, or thinking about controlling what you can influence or what you can actually take action on. In terms of customer focus, flexibility was a really important element for Mawgan. It's about being flexible and being able to adapt for your customers' changing environments too. They're in the same situation as you, so having that understanding and empathy is really important. And do everything possible to look after them. I think we're seeing a common theme already, that it's about caring for your customers. Those that are going to be successful coming out of the pandemic are really looking after their customers and providing a good experience. And say yes wherever you can, and then find a way to make it happen. So continuing that innovation theme. The other element I picked out was understanding the situation. This was really important. Making sure that you pull the right stakeholders together, you gather the right people in a cadence of meetings, so that you can set up that frequency and rhythm of conversation and track progress. And then focus on creating an environment where people can exchange information and wisdom and knowledge and experience. So that exchange is absolutely key, because everybody will be bringing different aspects to the table. And then finally, team focus. Be there for your team members, even perhaps when they don't need it. But again, Mawgan was saying this is fundamental about being a leader. You're there for your team. And checking in with those who might need it most. He had some people who were living on their own, so it's important for Mawgan to keep checking in and making sure that they're okay. And start from a place of trust. Going virtual or working from home for the first time is a big change for leaders and for the employees. So to do that, to build that trust, is about focusing on outcomes rather than focusing on input. Well, I wish Mawgan all the very best with the continuing challenges and opportunities with Orange, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thank you.